everybody and welcome to the Flute Practice. Today I am going to be sharing with you guys one of the biggest misconceptions that many of us have had or have with flute tonguing. This misconception is quite bold in its statement, but I will explain it in a moment. The tongue creates all articulation. So we think that our tongue and our tongue alone is responsible for creating different articulation. So, for example, if I'm playing staccato notes, I think that my tongue is the one that is creating the shortness of the notes. And this, my friends, is not true. I like to think of this as kind of like the tongue being the point or the sharp edge on the end of the knife, which, yes, is going to cut into whatever you are, busy cutting, but actually the whole knife we need in order to actually make that cut. And the rest of the knife, you might ask, what is that? Well, that would be your support and your air. Recently, we had masterclasses with Catherine Kemmler, and she had such a nice way of putting this. She says that the air should drive the tongue, and the tongue should not drive the air. So the tongue is really riding on this kind of wave of air instead of actually kind of pushing out or forcing out the air into the flute. Often your tonguing is sounding kind of really sort of tight and stuck, and often you will struggle to actually get loose or fast tonguing. So often you're not getting that really nice kind of free, bubbly tonguing that we want. I remember when I was playing Mozart concerti for the first time, I got so frustrated because I knew how I wanted the tonguing to sound. I knew how I wanted those phrases to sound, but I just couldn't get it to sound like that. It always just kind of ended up sounding something like that. And really what we want something like that. So here is a simple little exercise to help us reimagine flute articulation. What we're going to do, we're going to just take that little passage from that Mozart concerto just because it's useful right now. And we are first going to practice it all slurred. So in this case, I'll obviously re-articulate some of the notes because I have to. So that's the first step. Practice it all slurred, making sure you have a beautiful, big, full, lovely sound. Then we're going to practice it on ha. So really you just, without the tongue, you're just going, letting the stomach go out as you do this. So we're thinking out, ha, 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 or kind of from the diaphragm, really kind of pumping out that air. And then we will practice it on double notes on each one. So you don't have to add the trill there, but just doing two little two. And now what we're really trying to do is keep that tongue very, very light, just the tip of the tongue moving, not the whole tongue. I've done a whole video on this kind of biting down, stabilizing the back of the tongue technique, and just getting that tip of the tongue to move. So it's really important that you are doing that. And then we want to kind of combine these guys together. So we want the good sound, which is getting that air moving beautifully. We want that ha feeling, which is going to give the notes the lightness, although it's not going to be as extreme when we're actually articulating, but a similar kind of a feeling. And we want the lightness of the tongue. So now, this little passage I am double tonguing, but you can just as well do this with single tongued passages. The same thing applies. We think that the tongue is the one creating the shortness of the notes, but it's really not. It's the support that is ha 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 ha, and it is the constant air getting that lovely sound that give us that nice light crisp tonguing. And the tongue, yes, is important, but it's really just the kind of like tip of the knife. Okay guys, I hope that is a little bit of a new way of thinking about flute articulation and tonguing. We need to stop thinking that this guy is as important as he is. It just creates heavy tonguing and heavy articulation, and we don't want that. Until then, everybody, happy practicing and see you next time.